All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is Dave Nadler with the National Weather Service here in Peachtree City, Atlanta. I'll be conducting today's weekly weather briefing. Today is Thursday, September 20th, 2018. Go ahead and get started. All right, main highlights, good news. We're not expecting any high impact weather over the next 7 days. Maybe the not so good news is that these unseasonably warm, hot conditions we've been seeing, despite it being dry, it's been very warm for this time of year, is going to persist through the weekend. There is going to be some sort of a pattern shift next week, and hopefully that will bring us a little bit more moisture as far as the potential for rain, and also cooler temperatures, or at least more seasonal temperatures by the middle to end of next week. So we're still a few days away from that potential shift in the pattern, but things are pointing to that happening sometime next week. How hot has it been? Well, generally speaking, over the last few days, temperatures have been running at least 10 to 15 degrees above normal. The graph that you see is a comparison from actual high temperatures yesterday in Atlanta, Columbus, Macon, and Athens, compared to the normal high for this time of year, for the 20th of September. So you can see Atlanta, we were 94 yesterday, 81 is the normal high, that's 13 degrees above normal. Columbus was 97, and their normal high is 86. Macon was 98. I believe they broke a record a couple of days ago, topping off at 100, and their normal high for right around this time of year is 85. And in Athens, it was 94, and their normal high is 83. So why the record heat, or the near record heat? Well, most of you probably heard this before. Usually when we have a persistent, strong upper ridge of high pressure, that allows a lot of subsidence or sinking air to heat up rapidly in the atmosphere as it reaches the surface. So the ground and the sun really heats things up pretty quickly. So this ridge of high pressure that's been sort of centered across the eastern third of the United States is unusually warm and strong for this time of year. And looking at, not getting into the science, but looking at like standard deviations compared to normal, we're running about 2 standard deviation above normal. And that translates to about a 1 in 20 chance or probability of seeing this type of a pattern this time of year. So is it completely unusual? No, but is it certainly abnormal? Yes. And of course, that's why we've been running 10 to 15 degrees above normal. So looking kind of at the general pattern for today, we're looking at upper level high and low pressure. So you see the big ridge on the left over the southeast United States. That's what we're seeing today. Fast forward about a week from now, and that pattern, that ridge is going to break down and shift to the east. We're expecting a more zonal flow, which is a west to east flow. And that should translate to more seasonal temperatures for this time of year. Instead of seeing like mid to upper 90s, we should be more in the low to mid 80s, and that certainly will feel a lot better than what we've been seeing over the last week to even 10 days. So that's kind of what we're anticipating to happen over the next week. We'll see how things shake out. Looking at temperatures over the next few days, this graphic shows you the high temperatures across the area. Again, generally in the lower to mid 90s for tomorrow. Heat index, the humidity hasn't been that unusual. It's been kind of a relatively dry heat, but still, with dew points in the 60s to around 70, heat indices are going to be a little bit higher than the actual air temperatures, especially as you head south towards like Columbus and Macon and in our far southeast counties. We could see heat indices in the mid to upper 90s approaching 100 tomorrow. Now, as we go through the weekend, this is Saturday. Temperatures drop off a little bit as that ridge starts to break down, but still going to be above normal with temperatures right around 90 in Atlanta Metro, lower 90s to the south, and mid to upper 80s in the higher elevations. Heat indices will be generally in the 90s across the area during the afternoon on Saturday. And then fast forward another day into Sunday, not too much of a change from Saturday. High temperatures might be a degree or two cooler, especially north and west of I-85. But generally speaking, temperatures are still going to be running about 5 to 10 degrees above where they should be for this time of year. Now, looking ahead into early next week, we start to see the effects of a cold front moving in from the north and west. It's because the ridge has been so strong, it's really not going to get too far south over the next few days. So that front may hang up just to our north, especially as we head into early next week, Monday and Tuesday. But that should bring just enough cloud cover, maybe some rainfall, especially in the northern half of our area where we'll see temperatures drop into the lower to mid 80s, even upper 70s in the higher elevations of North Georgia, with mid to upper 80s farther south and east across the state. So we'll see what happens. Again, expect that cool down, some higher humidity, clouds, and maybe some rain to increase by early next week throughout the week next week. Expected rainfall, this is through Saturday. That big kind of donut hole across much of the state and the parts of South Carolina means that we really aren't expecting any sort of measurable rainfall basically today, tomorrow, and then even into Saturday, with most of the moisture and the potential for rain well to the north and west as that front starts to approach. So that it's definitely going to be dry. It's going to contribute to the warm, unseasonably warm temperatures over the next few days. But looking ahead beyond that, as we head into Sunday and definitely Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we start to see an increase in rainfall probability chances. This can result anywhere from about 1/10 to maybe upwards of 1 inch across the area by the middle of next week. So not to say that this is all going to fall at once. We could see some spotty showers developing early next week into the middle of next week. We'll fine-tune the details, obviously, as we get a little bit closer to it, but at least there's some reprieve, some light at the end of the tunnel where we can at least get some moisture in here and drop those temperatures down to where they should be for mid to late September. All right. Thankfully, the tropics at this point are not that busy, although we're still climatologically we're past peak, but we're still in a pretty high probability to see tropical systems develop basically from this time, middle to end of September, all the way through the middle of October, is still a pretty high chance of seeing something. The good news is the National Hurricane Center, this is their 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook. There's a couple of disturbances that they're monitoring. The one that's east of the Leeward Islands here, about a 20% chance of seeing something develop over the next 5 days, not very high, and it's sort of tracking to the west-northwest. The other sort of disturbance as well into the Atlantic, about a 40% chance of seeing something develop, but likely will have no impact to the United States over the next week. And so that's the good news. Certainly got to keep an eye on things this time of year, but at least for the next 5 to 7 days, things look relatively quiet for our region. All right, well, that's about it. No high impact weather again expected over the next 7 days across north and central Georgia. That's the good news. If you like the heat, that's also good news because it's going to continue over the next few days. And then as we head into early next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we do expect a front to slowly sag from the northwest across the area. That should bring a return to a little bit more moisture, potential to see some rainfall, a few thunderstorms. Not looking at anything severe at this point, but it should also bring the temperatures down to a little bit more seasonal conditions like we should see for mid to late September. So that pretty much concludes the weekly briefing for North and Central Georgia. We hope everybody has a good rest of the week and a safe weekend. I'll certainly open it up to any questions if anybody has any specifics. Otherwise, hope everybody has a great rest of the day.